I thought I knew her. I thought I could trust every word she spoke. But the moment she said she was going on a girls' trip, something inside me broke. Because deep down, I knew she was lying. And when I decided to follow her, I uncovered a truth so dark, it shattered everything we had. I remember the night it started. She walked into the living room with a brightness in her voice, her smile almost rehearsed. "Babe," she said, tossing her hair back like she always did when she wanted something, "I'm going away this weekend. Just a little girls' trip. You know, wine, laughter, shopping. I need it." I looked up from my laptop, surprised but not suspicious. Why would I be? She was my everything. My trust, my home, my safe place. If she said she needed a break, then she deserved one. I smiled. "Of course, you should go. You deserve it." She grinned, kissed my forehead, and walked away. But something lingered. Something off. Her eyes, they didn't hold mine the way they usually did. Her voice, just a little too quick, a little too polished. And her hands, I noticed, were restless. She kept tugging at the hem of her shirt, fidgeting, like the truth was trying to claw its way out of her, but she wouldn't let it. That night, I told myself I was overthinking. I reminded myself that love means trust. But my gut whispered, she's hiding something. The next morning confirmed it. She was rushing, not her usual bubbly self when packing for a trip. Normally, she'd parade outfits in front of me, asking which dress I liked best, which shoes looked cuter. This time, she just threw clothes into a suitcase, barely folding them. Her hair was tied back messily, no makeup, no perfume. Not the woman I knew who would normally spend hours getting ready, even for brunch. "Coffee?" I asked, holding out her favorite mug. She shook her head. "No time. The girls are waiting." But there was no excitement in her tone. No playful chatter about her friends, no giggling about what they'd do on their trip, just cold efficiency. I walked her to the door, watching every move, every twitch. She hugged me, but it was brief, stiff, mechanical. "Call me when you land," I said softly. "Yeah, of course." Too fast, too rehearsed. The taxi driver took her bag, loaded it into the trunk. She got in, and with a quick wave, she was gone. I stood there at the window, watching the car disappear down the street, and my chest felt heavy. Was I imagining it? Was I becoming paranoid? Or was my gut screaming the truth I didn't want to face? I sat back down on the couch, trying to shake it off, but the silence in the house was deafening. My mind replayed her every word, her every look, her every nervous twitch. And that's when it hit me. Sometimes silence tells you more than words ever will. I couldn't ignore it anymore. Before I knew it, I was grabbing my car keys, my heart pounded so hard I could barely breathe. "I'm not crazy," I whispered to myself as I locked the door behind me. "I just need to know." I slid behind the wheel, started the engine, and pulled out into the street, keeping a safe distance behind her taxi. And in that moment, that split-second decision to follow her, I didn't realize I was also following the unraveling of everything I thought was real. Because the truth waiting for me wasn't just painful, it was life-changing. The city rolled by in a blur of lights as I trailed her taxi. My grip on the steering wheel tightened every time the driver's brake lights glowed red. I kept a safe distance, praying she wouldn't look back. She was on her phone, tapping quickly, her head tilted just enough to shield the screen. I couldn't see what she was typing, but I didn't need to. My gut told me it wasn't me she was texting. I remembered what she'd said the night before. "It's just me and the girls. A little escape, nothing serious." But where were the girls now? At the airport drop-off lane, she stepped out. The driver unloaded her suitcase, and I parked far enough to stay invisible. I watched her stand there,
shifting her weight, glancing at her phone like she was waiting for someone. No laughter, no hugs, no friends. I expected at least 2 women rushing over, squealing, grabbing her hands, joking about what they'd do on their trip, but no one came. Instead, she pulled her suitcase behind her, head down, and walked straight toward the terminal. Alone. My chest tightened. Was I losing my mind? Or was she lying? Piece by piece, word by word, right in front of me. I followed her inside, keeping my distance, moving like a shadow. My eyes darted from sign to sign until I spotted her at the kiosk. She printed her boarding pass, glanced around nervously, then headed toward security. I dared to pull out my phone, opening our texts. Me, safe travels, love. Send me a pic with the girls when you can.
Her reply came instantly. Of course, babe. They're here, just getting food. I'll text you when we board. My blood ran cold. Food? Girls? Lies stacked on lies. I scrolled through her messages, desperate for a clue. Nothing. No group chats, no inside jokes, no trip planning with friends. Just silence where laughter should have been. I slipped through security a few gates behind her, my heart pounding so hard I swore the agents could hear it. Every step felt heavier than the last. Finally, I saw her boarding gate. I checked the screen. And then my heart stopped. The flight wasn't heading to the beach town she'd told me about. It wasn't even close. Her flight was bound for another city altogether, a place we had no ties to, no family, no friends, a city that meant nothing to us. Unless it meant everything to her. I leaned against the wall, trying to steady my breath. My mind raced. Why there? Who was waiting? What was she hiding that needed an entire city between us? I wanted to walk away. I wanted to go home, pretend I hadn't seen any of this, convince myself it was all a mistake. But I couldn't. The need to know was stronger than my fear. I pulled up my wallet, marched to the counter, and asked for a seat on the same flight. My voice shook, but I forced the words out. 1 ticket, same flight. Minutes later, I was seated just a few rows behind her. She never once turned around. She just stared at her phone, fingers moving fast, like she was trying to erase me from her thoughts. As the plane lifted into the night sky, I stared out the window, my chest hollow, my mind spiraling. Was I crazy for doing this? Or was she crazy for thinking I wouldn't notice? The city lights shrank below us, and a new city, a new truth waited ahead. And all I could think was this: when that plane lands, everything will change. When the plane touched down, my heart felt like it had been in freefall the entire flight. I stayed seated until she walked out, my eyes locked on her every move. She didn't glance around for friends. She didn't send a picture to prove her story. She just walked, fast, purposeful, like she had somewhere very specific to be. She bypassed the taxi line, pulling her suitcase behind her, until a car pulled up. Not a cab, not a rideshare, just a car that stopped like it knew exactly who it was waiting for. The driver didn't even get out. She opened the door herself, slid inside, and the car sped off. Panic surged in my chest. I fumbled for another taxi, blurting out the address as best I could. I prayed the driver caught enough of it. As we pulled away, I stared out the window, every nerve in my body buzzing. We drove for nearly half an hour, away from the glitter of the city center, past quiet neighborhoods, until the car finally stopped in front of a small, nondescript apartment building, the kind of place you'd never notice if you weren't looking for it. She stepped out, her suitcase trailing behind her, and walked up the narrow staircase. She didn't hesitate. She didn't look nervous. She looked excited. That was what broke me the most. I sat in the back of my taxi, frozen, watching the light flicker on inside the apartment. My throat tightened as a figure appeared in the doorway. A man. Tall. Confident. Waiting.
She smiled at him. She hugged him, and I felt my entire world collapse in that single moment. It wasn't the hug itself, it was her face. The way her smile lit up, the way her shoulders relaxed, the way she looked at him like he was home. A look I thought was only mine. My chest burned, my fists clenched, my mind screamed, "This is it. This is the truth. She lied to you. She betrayed you. You were just a fool with blind faith." I ducked lower in my seat, afraid she'd see me, though part of me wanted her to. Part of me wanted to storm up the stairs, tear the door off its hinges, demand answers right there. But another part of me hesitated. What if I was wrong? What if there was some explanation? But what explanation begins with lies? What explanation hides in another city with another man? The driver turned to me. "Do you want me to wait?" I nodded numbly, my voice caught in my throat. From the shadows of the street, I kept my eyes glued to the glowing window upstairs. I saw their silhouettes move back and forth. I couldn't hear their voices, but I didn't need to. My imagination filled in the blanks, each scenario worse than the last. Minutes dragged into hours. My heart didn't stop pounding. My palms didn't stop sweating. I whispered to myself, "Is this who she really is? Was I just a placeholder in her story while she kept her real life hidden here?" I gripped the car door handle, ready to leap out, ready to confront them. But something stopped me. Maybe it was fear. Maybe it was the need to see just one more piece of proof before I destroyed what was left of us.
So I sat there in the shadows, trembling, every second carving a deeper wound into my chest. And in that silence, I realized something terrifying. I wasn't just watching her, I was watching the end of us. Because no matter what excuse she tried to give later, I had already seen the truth in her smile, and nothing would ever erase it. I don't remember opening the car door. One moment, I was sitting in the shadows, trembling with rage and heartbreak. The next, I was standing on the street, the cool night air hitting my face like a slap. My legs moved before my mind could stop them. Every step toward that apartment building felt like walking into fire. My chest tightened, my breath caught, but I couldn't turn back. Not now. Not after everything I'd seen. The stairwell smelled like damp concrete and cigarette smoke. My shoes echoed with each step, every sound announcing my presence to a truth I wasn't ready for. When I reached the door, I froze. My hand hovered over the wood, my heart hammering against my ribs. What would I say? What would I do? I didn't even get the chance to decide. The door swung open. He was there, the man, the stranger. Tall, broad-shouldered, with eyes that looked me over like I was the intruder, like I didn't belong. Behind him, I saw her, my girlfriend, my love. My liar. Her face drained of color the instant she saw me. What are you doing here?" she stammered, clutching the strap of her bag like it was a lifeline. I stepped forward, my voice shaking but loud enough to fill the hallway. "Funny. I was about to ask you the same thing." Her eyes darted to him, then back to me, panic spreading across her features. She opened her mouth, but before she could speak, the man's voice cut through. "Who is this?" he demanded, his tone sharp, territorial. I swallowed hard, anger rising in my throat. I should be the one asking you, "Who are you?" He folded his arms, unfazed. "I'm the one she actually came here for." The words were a knife twisting in my chest. I turned to her, my voice cracking. "So it's true. The trip, the lies, everything, it was all just to come here. To him?
Tears filled her eyes, but she didn't deny it. And in that silence, that awful, suffocating silence, I had my answer. The man smirked, as if my heartbreak was his victory. He said, "Maybe you should leave. You don't belong here." I snapped. "Don't talk to me like I'm some stranger. I was the one who stayed up with her through sleepless nights. I was the one she called her future. Do you even know what promises she's made?" My voice shook, not just with rage, but with desperation, because even as I said it, I knew. Those promises were broken the moment she smiled at him the way she once smiled at me. She stepped forward, her voice trembling. "Please, just go. This isn't what it looks like." I laughed bitterly, the sound hollow in my throat. "Not what it looks like? Then tell me, how should I explain you running into another man's arms while telling me you were hundreds of miles away with friends?" She flinched at my words, tears slipping down her cheeks. "I didn't mean for you to find out like this." "Find out? You didn't mean for me to find out at all. You wanted to keep living two lives. Me in one, him in the other. And you thought I'd never know." The man placed a hand on her shoulder protectively, like I was some threat. And that broke something deep inside me. That used to be my place, my comfort, my touch. I took a step back, my chest heaving. My vision blurred, not from tears, but from rage, betrayal, the shattering of everything I believed about us. "I don't even recognize you anymore," I whispered, my voice hollow. And just like that, the fight left me. Because what was there left to fight for? She'd already chosen. I turned, each step heavier than the last, my body trembling as I forced myself down those stairs. Behind me, I could hear her voice calling my name, but I didn't stop. I couldn't. When I hit the street again, the night air felt colder, sharper. The taxi driver was still waiting, watching me with quiet sympathy. I climbed in without a word, sinking into the seat, my hands trembling uncontrollably. As the car pulled away, I caught one last glimpse of that glowing apartment window. The window where my world had ended. And in that silence, one thought echoed louder than the rest. If she could betray me this easily, then maybe I never truly knew her at all. The city lights blurred past the taxi window, but I didn't see them. I didn't see anything. I just sat there, hollow, like someone had carved me out from the inside and left only pieces behind. Her voice still echoed in my ears. "It's not what it looks like." But I'd heard that line before. In movies, in stories, in nightmares. And I know. It's always exactly what it looks like. The driver asked where I wanted to go. My throat tightened, the words catching. Home? Could I even call it home anymore? Every wall, every corner of that place would feel poisoned now, haunted by the ghosts of her lies.
I gave him an address anyway. My apartment. My prison. The ride was quiet, but my mind screamed louder than traffic. Every laugh she ever shared with me now replayed like a cruel joke. Every "I love you" suddenly felt like a rehearsed line, delivered with perfect conviction while her heart was already somewhere else. How long had this been going on? Weeks? Months? Years? My brain clawed at memories, twisting them, searching for cracks I should have noticed. That night she said she was working late. Was she with him? That weekend she claimed she needed me time. Was it really their time? That set a new perfume, that shift in her energy, that faint smile when her phone buzzed. God, I felt like the biggest fool in the world. By the time I reached home, the weight of it all pressed so heavy on my chest, I thought I'd suffocate. I closed the door behind me and leaned against it, sliding down to the floor. The silence of the apartment was deafening, mocking.
I pressed my palms against my face, but it didn't stop the tears from breaking through. Hot, angry tears that blurred everything. I wasn't just heartbroken. I was humiliated, crushed, shattered. I had built my life around her, around us. Every plan, every dream, every future moment had her name written in it. And in one night, with one lie, it all crumbled into dust. The rage came next. I shot up from the floor, pacing the living room like a trapped animal. My fists clenched, my jaw locked. The images replayed, her face pale with guilt, his smirk of victory, her excuses that weren't even excuses. I grabbed a picture frame from the shelf, us on vacation, smiling in the sun. I stared at it until my vision blurred again, then hurled it across the room. The glass shattered, echoing through the empty space. "Why?" I whispered to the silence, my voice breaking. Why wasn't I enough? No answer came, just the sound of my own ragged breathing. I collapsed onto the couch, holding my head in my hands. Memories turned into weapons, stabbing me with every recall. The time I held her when she cried, the nights we laughed until sunrise, the promises whispered in the dark. All lies. All of it. And yet, beneath the rage, beneath the despair, there was something else. Something colder. Liberation. For the first time, I wasn't under her spell. I wasn't blinded by love or trust or hope. The mask had fallen, and I finally saw her for what she was. A liar. And maybe, just maybe, this was my chance to reclaim myself. But that thought came with a terrifying question. What do I do now? Do I walk away forever? Cut her off like she cut me? Do I expose her? Drag her lies into the light? Let the world see her betrayal? Or do I let her back in, weaker than before, just to feel the comfort of a love that was never real? The battle raged inside me, louder than any scream. Part of me wanted to burn everything down, to let my revenge consume me. Another part whispered of forgiveness, of holding on to the little good that remained. But then I remembered her face, that look when she saw me at the door, that guilt, that fear, and I knew there was no going back. The night stretched long, but one thing became clear as the minutes ticked by. This was my breaking point. The end of us. The death of who I used to be. From here, I had two choices: remain broken or rebuild stronger. And as I sat there in the ruins of our love, I whispered a promise to myself. Not to her, not to anyone else. I'll never let anyone break me like this again. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of my phone buzzing. Her name lit up the screen like a curse. For a second, my thumb hovered over the answer button. My chest ached. My heart begged to hear her voice, to demand explanations. But instead, I pressed decline. And for the first time, in weeks, maybe months, I felt something unfamiliar. Power. Her calls kept coming. Morning, noon, midnight. Texts flooded in. Please, let's talk. It's not what you think. I need you to believe me. But I didn't answer. Not once. Instead, I went to the gym. I poured every ounce of rage into the weights, every betrayal into the treadmill. I ran until my lungs burned, lifted until my arms trembled. Each drop of sweat felt like poison leaving my body. At home, I started journaling. The words came raw, jagged, but they flowed. She lied. She broke me. But I survived, and I will rise. I reconnected with old friends, people I drifted from because I was too wrapped up in her world. They welcomed me back without judgment, like they had been waiting all along. Day by day, the silence between us became my shield. And strangely, it drove her crazy. She started showing up, first at my door, knocking gently, then pounding, crying, begging. "Please, just talk to me," she sobbed through the wood. But I stayed silent. I stood on the other side, fists clenched, heart torn, but I didn't move.
Because deep down, I knew something she didn't. She wasn't crying for me. She was crying for herself, for the loss of her comfort, her control, her safety net. And I wasn't going to give that back. The man she ran to, I knew she'd realize soon enough that he wasn't her savior. He was her escape. And escapes don't last forever. They crumble under reality. But me? I wasn't crumbling anymore. Still, I battled with myself at night. Lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, my mind whispered, should I forgive her? Should I give her one last chance? Then the memory of that apartment flashed. The hug, the smile, the betrayal carved into her face, and forgiveness died on my lips. One evening, I saw her waiting by my car in the parking lot. Her eyes were swollen, her voice shaky. "I'll do anything," she whispered. "Just don't leave me." And for the first time, I felt nothing. No anger, no sorrow, just emptiness where love used to live. I looked at her, really looked at her, and realized she wasn't the woman I fell in love with anymore. Or maybe she never was. Maybe I just loved the version I wanted her to be. That's when the truth hit me. This wasn't about revenge anymore. This wasn't about making her suffer like I did. This was about me, about taking my life back. So I walked past her without a word, her voice fading behind me. Every step felt like reclaiming ground I'd lost. And yet, the silence carried suspense, because she still lingered in my world like a shadow, and the final decision, whether to forgive or erase her completely, loomed over me like a storm waiting to break. The power was mine now, but power comes with choice. Would I burn the bridge entirely or leave it standing, even in ruins? That question kept me awake. That suspense hung heavy, because sometimes the hardest part of betrayal isn't walking away from someone else. It's walking away from the version of yourself that still wants to stay. I agreed to meet her one last time, not because I wanted her back, but because I wanted closure. I needed to say the words out loud to end it properly, on my terms. We met at a quiet cafe far from the noise of the city. She was already there when I arrived, her hands wrapped tightly around a coffee cup she wasn't drinking. Her eyes were swollen, red from days of crying. When she saw me, her lips trembled. "Thank you for coming." I sat down across from her, silent. For a long moment, we just stared at each other. It felt like years of love and lies sat between us, heavy and unspoken. She reached across the table, her voice cracking. "I know I hurt you. I know I lied, but it didn't mean what you think. I was confused. I was scared." Her excuses washed over me, hollow, empty. Once, I would have clung to those words, desperate to believe them. But now they were just noise. I shook my head slowly. "You lied about the trip, and that trip became the end of us." Her breath hitched. Tears slid down her cheeks, but I didn't look away. For the first time, I wasn't the broken one in this story. I continued, my voice calm, steady. "You were my everything. But love without trust, it's nothing. It's just a cage, and I refuse to live in a cage anymore." She buried her face in her hands, sobbing. People glanced our way, but I didn't care. The scene didn't embarrass me anymore. It liberated me. I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor.
For a moment, I looked down at her, the woman I once thought I'd spend forever with. But forever had already ended. I placed a few bills on the table for my untouched coffee, then whispered, almost gently, "Goodbye." As I walked out of the cafe, the air felt different. Lighter, colder, maybe, but mine. She didn't follow me this time. She stayed behind, swallowed by the silence she created. Outside, I paused on the sidewalk, taking a deep breath. The pain was still there, but it didn't own me anymore. The anger had cooled, the heartbreak dulled. What remained was strength, raw, unshakable strength I never knew I had. Because betrayal had broken me, but surviving it had rebuilt me. I whispered to myself, almost like a vow, sometimes following someone doesn't just reveal their lies, it reveals your worth. And for the first time in a long time, I believed it. Love without trust is like a cage. It traps you, suffocates you, makes you smaller than you are. But walking away from lies, no matter how painful, is the key that sets you free.